Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank, coming to you virtually from Seattle and the great PNW, Pacific Northwest. Listen, if you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, this right here is the podcast for you. This is where we say street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello, I'm Dan Whedon, and my co-host today is the incomparable Michelle Baumberger. I think I just gave you a compliment. I hope I did, Michelle. The incomparable Michelle Baumberger. Our guest today is Brea Starmer. Brea is the founder of Lions Plus Tigers, and probably a little bit of oh my in there. And we can't wait to hear more. Brea is the epitome of an entrepreneur, and we're going to discuss her journey and how it's become so important in so many ways. So welcome, Brea. We will be with you in just a minute. You can find us, and when I say you, everybody out there, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We are on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and of course, YouTube. I like to say it all the time. We are ubiquitous. We come to you from about a dozen cities, including the mothership in Atlanta, Boston, Boca Raton, a bunch of other places. Now, listen, before we bring on Brea to learn more about her and Lions Plus Tigers, and I'm intrigued to find out about the name. Hello there, Michelle.
Hey, Dan. It's been a little while. How are you?
It feels like forever, because the last time I talked to you, we were right in the middle of summer. We were in August sometime, weren't we?
We were.
Yeah, and now Labor Day's come, and kids are back in school. And I have to tell you, Michelle, my kids are old, and I know they listen to this, so they're probably not going to like me saying that. They're old. I haven't had kids in school to worry about while working since about 2008. So some 13 years. When I started my business, they were high schoolers. They were driving cars. It was all easy. But I know for a fact that in the aftermath, or in the current math of COVID and virtual learning and all of those things, being a parent and being an entrepreneur and a business owner has changed. I know you have kids in school. Talk a little bit about, now we're in September of 2021. How have things changed? How are they the same? Talk about being a business owner in your world, as well as having some kids at home.
I got to say, it's a little bit of a shock to the schedule to be shifting back to morning commutes and afternoon commutes and pickups and drop-offs and traffic going into schools. I don't think the schools were built for, the volumes of cars that come in there to drop the kids off. So I do have high schoolers. One that is not interested in a driver's license, is usually pretty good about public transportation though. So that's super helpful. And the second one can't wait to get her driver's license, and that's about 6 months away. And so she will be free of me and the drive to school with mom scenario. So we are definitely adjusting to the.
Is there any virtual learning in Bellevue, or are they all back in school?
They're all back in school, masked, full days. And I don't think there's even a virtual option for a quarantine scenario right now. I don't think there's a plan for that. So if the school needs to quarantine a class, I think they just do the work from home, but there's no virtual model as far as I know.
Well, Michelle, I'm excited about our guest, Brea Starmer, because I think this concept actually fits in a lot to what she does. Brea, welcome.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate you having me.
Let me ask you, because I know you have, I believe, three children,
yes.
Three children, way younger than mine, I know, and probably younger than Michelle's. And I know, as part of your business, one of the important tenets is about not only entrepreneurship, but being a working parent. I'd like you to just kind of discuss what Michelle and I were talking about. Talk about being an entrepreneur, starting a business, which you did, while also being a mom.
Well, Dan, I am taking your energy today. Thank you so much for being as enthusiastic and joyful as you are. I will take that because I am living the mom life today. Maybe I'll just tell you about the last 48 hours, which looked like Monday morning. My middle kid, he's 2.5, woke up very ill, vomiting, not COVID related, but boy, this is the journey that we're all on right now. So we had to pull all the kids out of school, drive through COVID test. I had to stop work, cancel all my meetings, spend time with the kids, and then work late into the night last night to recover. And luckily, I have built a business designed exactly for that, which provides flexibility for primarily working caretakers who need to make those kinds of shifts and those responsibilities and still hit their targets. So I am living our model. And you're right. I have 3 kids under 6, and I have a kindergartner for the very first time who entered school 3 weeks ago, got on the bus, literally went to school for the first time in COVID times. So we are learning how to have a school age kid and little kids. I have a 5.5, a 2.5, and then a 9-month-old baby as well. So we are just riding this roller coaster along with everybody else. But I've been very grateful for the fact that my business is set up to support this kind of work, and happy to dig into those topics with you.
Yeah, it is so fun to kind of watch the feedback that you get on social media and from your employees around the model that you have built. And I think you've been best workplaces for a few years running. So congratulations on that. It's amazing. But what would you say, brings people to the table, your people to the table beyond just flexibility? The model is bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, we can skip to the conclusion, the too long didn't read for all the other business owners thinking about their models. The conclusion is that, I tapped into something that I hope everyone would consider, which is flexibility at work. What this does is it builds workplaces of inclusion from the start. It means that people can show up authentically and safely when they need those kinds of breaks. They need pauses. They need accommodation in their life. And we actually don't think of it as accommodation. We think of it as a strategic advantage to build models that enable people to come in and out of work as their life dictates. It builds loyalty. It builds attrition. Certainly awards and accolades help. Our recruiting pipeline is very full. So talent attraction is not a challenge for my business. So there are lots of sort of business outcomes that we have realized by adopting this one core philosophy around flexibility. But you're right, Michelle, the model is a lot more than that. And just so that everyone, kind of to get everyone on the same page, Lions and Tigers, we consider ourselves a future of work consultancy. And that simply means that we go into what would be traditional workplaces and we build bridges to part-time and flexible work. And we do that through both culture coaching to their workplace, but also bringing in contingent staff. So we actually keep women and other folks, underrepresented populations in the workforce that might otherwise opt out. Many of you are probably reading about the Great Resignation, maternal drain, the gig economy. These are all trends that we sit squarely at the center of and fight against to keep our workplaces inclusive.
So, Brea, I love the topic. I love the concepts around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I can't wait to spend more time talking about this, but I've got to jump from the conclusion back to the beginning, okay? Because at some point, you founded this business on an idea. And I'm very curious of how this idea originated. What got you to the point to say, I'm going to start this business? Because this is an entrepreneur's podcast, right? And you have a lot of people hopefully listening who are innovative, who have creative ideas. Talk to me about the start of Lions and Tigers and the why and the how.
And the how, okay. How much time do we have? Okay, so like many businesses, we all want to come to a place of innovation from a place of pain. So many of us have gone through situations of either trauma or discrimination or being left out of rooms. And that's what happened to me. Dan, I was working at a startup. I was pretty excited because I got knocked up with my first kid. I was really excited about the potential for my family and our business. And unfortunately, this large startup in Seattle decided to go a different direction. And so I was laid off along with 20% of the company when I was 7 months pregnant. And I thought that, I had been in corporate America. I had been working in a number of businesses and had a really great network. And even despite that, faced a lot of pregnancy discrimination. I was really sort of left out of the workforce. You can imagine this is a really dangerous time for a woman to be left alone. I did not have medical benefits. My husband was also transitioning to a new job in corporate. We were really worried, and I was the breadwinner for our family, as many women are. And so the only thing I was really able to do was I asked a few folks to hire me on as a freelancer. I said, well, will you at least let me come in and contribute to some of your project priorities and hire me in a part-time capacity? And I was very fortunate that a couple of people said yes. And so what I did is during my third trimester, I worked my booty off. I just worked as fast and as hard as I could to save enough money for a self-funded maternity leave. So it was a place of duress, to be honest. I was angry, I was scared, and this was the place at which I was entering into motherhood. So you can imagine what that felt like in my life. As I had my baby, of course, we now know research shows how much being a mother changes how you think, how you operate. There's lots of research that shows the kind of unlocking that does for you. What came out of that, I didn't know, was an entire entrepreneurial journey that started with the birth of my son. Because not only did I realize how passionate I was about being a mother, that sort of surprised me. I didn't know that would happen. I also realized that there were other, especially women, but also men in this journey who didn't want to work in the traditional 9-to-5 working model. And it was kind of bananas to me that I couldn't find a part-time job that would honor my skills, that would let me be highly impactful in their businesses and organizations. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And so this felt like a big market opportunity, this like sort of bridge for the folks in the middle. And so we founded Lions and Tigers to try to change that, to try to create these opportunities for folks that want to work part-time. Now, my lens has broadened. Since I started, this was really a place for caretakers, parents, mothers. But now, as this work has continued and the call for inclusion has really changed, we now are fighting for a much more diverse slate of folks to go into workplaces beyond just caretakers, although we certainly have a lot of those. 75% of my population are parents. But we now realize the kinds of access that a lot of people need in our workplaces. So the mission has become even more important and urgent.
Well, I have to ask, where does Lions and Tigers come from?
Such a good question. And I do get a lot of bears and oh my jokes. And honestly, that is part of the story. So a couple of reasons. One, if you think of lions and tigers, the animals themselves, first of all, they're very dominant, fierce, courageous animals, often led by female dominant communities. But the other thing is, of course, I was very inspired by The Wizard of Oz. I have to tell you, Dorothy is one of the greatest stories of female leadership, bringing along allies on this massive journey that I just was so inspired by that story. So both of those hold true. And there's just something very courageous about thinking of a name called Lions and Tigers. So that's how this whole thing was born.
Oh my, no, I'm sorry. I had to say that. So let me ask this, because as I read your very impressive, and I mean that, very impressive resume and bio, I noticed that you've done work with Microsoft and Google and such as that. How broad-based around businesses do you work with? Do you work with small businesses and medium-sized businesses as well? Who might be coming to you and saying, Brea, we need some help with this? Can it be any size business?
Absolutely. We're happy to help any business who aligns with our values and wants to see change in their workforce. It has been really applicable in tech. So enterprise tech has been a big focus of ours because that's been the nature of their environment. Women in tech, you literally see the drop off. By age 35, 50% of women in tech will opt out. 50%. And there's there's not a big, surprise that age 35 is the time that many of us are having children. And so we are there fighting every day to try to keep women in. So that's been a really big focus. Yes, we've spent a lot of time in tech, but that does not mean that is where we stop. In fact, especially for folks that want to think about change in their cultures, that really want to think about how do we insource inclusion into our workspace. Like those are passionate leaders we want to help.
Well, we have a little bit of a passion. We have to pay the bills, Brea. So we're going to take our first break, and we're going to take a short break to hear from today's spotlight sponsor. And when we come back with our guest, Brea Starmer from I said Lions plus Tigers before, I apologize, Lions and Tigers, for our Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to ask Brea what she thinks about the 40-hour work week. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank.
Your business is a valuable achievement, your livelihood, and your legacy. Every day you are asked to balance business opportunities and legal risks. But engaging legal adds complexity and expense. You deserve to experience business law the way it should be. Practical, responsive, approachable, and transparent legal solutions to support your business in every stage. With Equinox Business Law Group's General Counsel Services, you get a corporate legal department tailored to your business needs. Let us tackle those contracts, HR, partnership, and IP issues so you can get back to your most important work, seamlessly moving your business forward. To learn more about Equinox's fixed cost, all-inclusive legal services, visit our website at equinox.law or email contact@equinoxbusinesslaw.com. Equinox Business Law Group. Business law the way it should be.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business leaders in the greater Puget Sound and Pacific Northwest. I'm Michelle Bomberger, and our guest today is Brea Starmer with Lions and Tigers. Let's start our next segment, Hot or Not.
All right, Brea, here's what we're going to do. Michelle and I are going to pepper you with really tough questions about strategies, concepts, thoughts, a whole bunch of different things. You're going to tell us whether it's hot or not, and why or why not. And unfortunately, at the end, you win absolutely nothing, but it will be loads and loads of fun. So the first one, I mentioned the 40-hour work week in the tease. Hot or not, Brea, the traditional Monday through Friday 40-hour work week. Hot or not?
Not. Horrible. Get out of here. No, we measure impact over hours. That's our philosophy.
Love it. What does impact over hours mean for those of people going, what is she talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it means that we're not checking to see if someone's on chat. It's not about what hours you're working or when you're online. Of course, we need to meet our SLAs for our clients. But at the same time, I have this rule about going to the dentist. Like, I don't want to know when you're going to the dentist. Like, that's just not something I'm interested in. Like, all I want to know is that you're hitting your objectives, and we're really clear about what accountabilities look like. When and how you do that is completely up to you. By the way, where to? You want to work in a trailer? Merry Christmas.
All right, another one. I know that you are really active in Women in Cloud and Women in Tech, as you mentioned. So hot or not, virtual networking?
Oh, hot. I'm super supportive of digital communities. Some of my greatest relationships and inspiration have come from digital communities in the last 2 years. I wouldn't have said that probably like maybe even pre-pandemic, but boy, the role of these digital communities it has really unlocked access and opportunity and entrepreneurship ideas I would have never experienced.
So kind of along that line, hot or not, going back to the office.
Ooh, this is a tricky one. This is like the one I want to say, like, you do you. Can that be an answer?
Yeah.
We're debating this at Lions and Tigers. Like, what do we want for office space? What does this look like? What are our expectations of people? Here's the thing. I don't want to be required to be anywhere, but I would love to see people. So my answer is you do you. Maybe hot, warm, lukewarm.
Michelle, I'm going to actually say, I think we have a new term here, and we're going to give Brea full credit. You do you. I love that. I think that's fantastic.
That came from a fight with my husband. One time that came out of my mouth. And now I use it a lot.
So I know your business is really around flexible workplaces and such, and we've talked a lot about just offline about the difference between employees and contractors. So hot or not, freelancing?
Oh, so hot. Well, you've all heard about the gig economy and the Great Recession, of course. I mean, before the pandemic, there was predictions that 50% of Americans were going to be freelance by 2025. I mean, now, of course, we've seen an even greater emphasis on this. And of course, we've seen a great resignation as it relates to women in the workplace. Women are opting out at a lot faster clip than men. So not only am I pro freelance, but I'm also pro entrepreneurship and micro entrepreneurship or solo entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it, because of the opportunity that it unlocks for people.
Brea, I'm going to jump off hot or not for just a second, because in your first answer to me, it made me think of an article that I recently read by a good colleague of mine regarding, balance and it was about the working and finding balance. And so I know that in this virtual world that really kind of got thrust upon us faster than anybody thought, it's actually very easy to get stuck in front of your monitor and work an inordinate amount of hours. I think that there was an original thought that, people will be doing their laundry and they'll be going out, they won't be working. Well, the opposite seems to have happened. Can you talk a little bit about those people who are working virtually and maybe have other obligations around parenting or whatever that might be? Do you have some suggestions on how to make sure that you're not overworking, that there is room for balance?
Mm. Yeah, we teach classes on boundary setting, and we have a philosophy at Lions and Tigers that we call highest and best use. And this is a real estate term that developers use for a plot of land. And the concept is that you consider how you can develop a plot of land to return the highest level of investment based on the boundaries that you have. And we apply that to our consulting work. So we actually start with these sort of personal scopes of work. How much capacity do we have? We set that out before we commit to something. And then we think through our commitments as they relate to the accountabilities of the organization. What is the organization or our clients trying to achieve? What's my personal accountability within that? And then we have to actually teach people how to set the boundaries and maintain their lifestyle, because it is really easy, Dan, you're right, to just get into this moment where you're just going all the time or you don't turn off. And for our group, especially because of a lot of us are caretakers, we have these other obligations. In my life, I have these 3 tiny kids that are very physical. That I actually have to, I'm nursing, I'm holding, I can't multitask those times. And so it's in the phase that I'm in, I have to be really clear and critical with my accountabilities and my boundaries to set expectations, to let folks know when I'm going to get back to them and if I'm able to get to that, or if not, then our highest and best use framework allows us to delegate it or defer it. So we actually sort of work through that collectively as a group. But you're right. I mean, so much of us today are giving so much, and this is why you're seeing these stats about the tremendous number of people evaluating their jobs right now. More than half of Americans right now are currently evaluating whether they're going to stay in their role. And you're going to, we're starting to see the attrition start. I mean, this is how I just came off a call with a client earlier this morning. And she was calling because the attrition on their team, they were thinking that they were staying ahead of it. And then this morning, the report has shown no, that in fact, the attrition is hitting them much harder than they thought. And they're trying to work on strategies to recover this very expensive problem for them, which is a draining talent pipeline.
There was something else you said that struck me in the last question that I asked, and that was about you're a big fan of micro enterprise and solopreneurship and entrepreneurship, and it kind of comes across to me as a slightly different mindset from many businesses that are more threatened by that rather than embracing it. So can you tell me more about what that looks like in your business?
Yeah, Michelle, that has been a bit of a secret sauce for us. And I didn't really mean for that to be a secret sauce for us. I'm just fascinated by the intersectionality of people. I'm so interested in the fact that we can possess so many different identities and show up at work. One of the things we did a couple of months ago at Lions and Tigers is we had an art walk, because we have a bunch of artists among us. I have a few painters, I have some folks that make jewelry. And it was really important for us to allow them to show up. And, I was so excited to buy some of their pieces. And that's been a really interesting development. One of the folks that came to work for me, it was because he wanted to run for Seattle City Council, and his job wouldn't allow him to go door knocking from 3 to 7 o'clock every day. And my thought was like, boy, if I could get 37 of his hours in a week, I would be so lucky. It doesn't matter to me at what time I get those necessarily. And so you're right, this idea that we've been covering and that we don't allow these intersectional identities show up at work, that's really been a bummer in the traditional workforce. And what that has unlocked with us is a lot of people feeling very proud to work here, and it has created a great loyalty with us. So to your point, that sort of side hustle thing is really appreciated. And then we are a safe harbor for a lot of freelancers. And so we offer a lot of resources to our community. We're sharing, we've got, tax 101, we do, legal strategies. We do a number of things where we help them be great entrepreneurs so that they are charging the right rate. They are learning how to have great client service, for instance, that they know sort of how to take advantage of the deal of being a freelancer, because there are so many advantages and things you need to be wary of. We want them to be better as a result of coming through our doors.
So, you mentioned the term intersectionality, and over the last year and a half or so, I've tried to invest a lot of time in issues around DEI. And this is an area, obviously, that has been part of what you've been doing and what you're actually expanding on. So I want to ask you, and I'm not sure I'm going to, because this question literally came up as you were talking, so I'm not sure how I'm going to spit this out, but bear with me. Where is this train going? What we are seeing or have seen as a traditional 9 to 5, 5-day a week, you got to be in an office workforce. I think we've all seen that's changing, and it's changing dramatically. Where do you see this train going into the future, if you could pull out your crystal ball? And I want also to have you comment on it from a diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm the father of 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, so equality for gender is really an important thing for me. Yet there's so many different areas where intersectionality comes into place. So this is a long way of asking a question. Where is this train going now that there is more awareness about it? What do you see in the future?
Any business leader you've probably interviewed over the past history of this podcast probably would say that their people are their differentiator. And so what now has happened is that we are calling leaders back to the table to say, prove it. And folks that don't have strategies around inclusion and belonging, talent attraction and retention are going to lose. And so what your question is getting at, Dan, is like, what do leaders need to prepare for moving forward? It is that if they haven't taken the time to really invest in, why the people are the core part of their strategy, now's a great moment to start. That's okay. Like, here we are. And there have been a chorus of voices. Many people of color have been shouting for many years. And it took an incident like George Floyd for all of us to take stock and to go through what many of us are looking at as sort of a racial equity journey. And everyone's at a different spot in that journey. And so for Lions and Tigers, my leadership team is mostly white. We can only represent a certain piece of our identities, of the spectrum of identities that exist in workplaces. And so for us, we hired a consultant 2 years ago to come in and look at the entirety of my business. And this is one mistake that a lot of leaders make, is that they will hire a DEI leader. They may put them on the leadership team and they feel like they have solved the problem. But the truth is that if you are going to build workplaces that are equitable and that look like places where people want to belong, all people, you have to look at the entire system of your business, from the branding on your website all the way through your exit interviews. Every piece of that has to be considered and looked at with a different lens. And leaders that understand this equation and are willing to invest and make change will see significant improvements in their retention, in their bottom line, and we see major profitability changes. But it does require a significant amount of investment and time and belief that this journey is worthwhile. And not everyone's there. And that's okay. And for those, and maybe, we hope that they will get there as leaders. And if they want help along that process, there's some amazing DEI consultants that I'd love to recommend that have been really transformational in how I have thought as a leader about making investments and decisions to center others that don't look or have the same lived experience like that I do. Did that answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay. I don't know if I answered like where it's going. It's like, let's
no,
do it.
well,
get on board.
Yeah, no, I think what you did is you answered it in a great way, because I'm not sure if anybody really knows, but the train's moving forward.
Yeah, I think here's a more practical piece of recommendation. My business, we use OKRs, objectives and key results. It's a planning framework invented by Intel and adopted by Google and many other tech firms. One of the things that leaders need to do is they need to actually start measuring this stuff. So, and that's actually quite a challenge. And it's not just a demographic survey. The complicated part starts when you think about access to opportunities, promotions by cohort. You start to look at, that's why I say you really have to think of every single bit of the business and how this is, how an intersectional lens plays into it. Because what's happening is that we're not giving access to seats. We're not giving promotions to people of color. We are not giving opportunities to women who would otherwise drop out of the workforce. So it does require significant flexibility and stamina to think about how your business transforms to keep folks in, because it is a very expensive proposition not to take this path. It's likely more expensive than doing the work and investing in fighting for change.
I really appreciate the follow-up on that. It was a complicated question, and you really broke it down, and appreciate the thoughtfulness of that. So here's what we have to be thoughtful of. We have another break to take. We're going to take that short break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back with more from Brea Starmer for our Plead the Fifth section of the show, we're going to find out what Brea thinks is better, street smarts or book smarts. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank.
Plead the Fifth is brought to you by our corporate sponsors: Ideal Life 360, Cornerstone Financial, First Underwriters Insurance, and the Kitsap Sun newspaper. Please visit our website at www.shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle to learn more about these terrific companies. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview some of the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and Pacific Northwest. I'm co-host Michelle Bomberger here with Brea Starmer today. Are you ready for Plead the Fifth?
I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, you can only, and I, whenever Michelle's here, you can only, you might have to text her and find out if you have to plead the fifth to any of my questions, because you can only plead the fifth once. So I'll let you use our great legal mind here, but we're going to ask you some questions. You're going to give us your best answer, and we're excited to hear some of these. Now, the first one I mentioned on the tease is, plead the fifth. What's more valuable in the business world today? Is it street smarts or a college degree?
Street smarts, for sure.
Talk
Absolutely.
about that.
I mean, I barely graduated college. Let's be honest for a moment. I will say, I am a proud Coug.
Yeah, I'm a husky, so we're about to what you went on mute. Sorry, but no, I'm just kidding.
Right, Dan. I am a proud Coug. I'm the first in my family to graduate from college. I do not come from a prestigious line of scholars. I do come from a group of scrappy entrepreneurs, and certainly the access that I was afforded by going to college got me my first corporate job and set me off on a path. So that was really useful. But I mean, let's not look at my GPA or my transcripts, shall we?
Great. So with this last year of being home and your whole team being home and all of us being virtual, can you share the funniest story you can think of from a work from home environment?
Oh, okay. Let me think about this. We're super like open about work from home. So I'm just trying to think if there's something that was like embarrassing that happened, or I mean, we're like sort of all out there with our kids and our dogs and our, I don't know. I mean, I have to pump all the time. I guess that's part of the journey here is that, 90 minutes out of my day, I'm attached to a pump. So at any given meeting, you're likely to hear the pump in the background. So, I mean, that's just my own story, but I'm not that embarrassed about that. I mean, I got to do what I got to do. So, I mean, but we're really open about all the work from home stuff. It's all good.
I love that.
So I think this is a good timing for me to ask my next plead the fifth. And you had brought up this term. Brea, is plead the fifth. Is the maternal drain going to go away once we rebound from COVID?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I think I knew the answer. For those wondering, what is maternal drain, especially those who are of the same gender as I am, might be wondering, talk about maternal drain.
I mean, the maternal drain, it was already happening. It was this idea that women, because of their caretaking status, are dropping out of work or having to choose either work full time or nothing at all. And in COVID, that was greatly exacerbated. If you look at sort of the loss of jobs, more than 11 million people lost their jobs throughout the summer. The majority of those were women, and the majority of those women were women of color. The majority of them were breadwinners for their family. So if you think about the kind of impact that this has on the wealth gap and the equity gap and sort of like this, like mommy tracking women out. It's now predicted that it will take us more than 30 years to recover from the last 2 years of COVID. So no, I think we have a long way to go to recover. Part-time work is one small piece of how we can recover this, and lots of smart people will need to come together to try to rebound our women in our society.
You mentioned earlier that not every business is ready for DEI and ready for a model like yours. So what's been the biggest challenge in bringing clients on board and sharing kind of what you're offering and what you're bringing to the table?
Oh boy, Michelle. I could plead the fifth on that, but I'm not going to, because the truth is that it's fear. In our system, white supremacy is what's rewarded. And in order for us to change that, we have to give up some of our power and our privilege. And it's very scary for people to do that because it means some personal sacrifice. And so I've never had a client come to me and say, my white privilege means that I can't enjoy this relationship together. But certainly there is a lot of bias in our systems. And so oftentimes we go in and we do our best to move people even just an inch. This doesn't have to be a transformation overnight. It certainly won't be. It took us a long time to get here. And so what we look for are people who are values aligned, who want to see change and are willing to go through some of those steps to move themselves inches closer. I'm reading James Clear's Atomic Habits, which talks about 1% improvement. And if we can think of each day being 1% better, it will always be our personal best. So that's our hope, is that we can work with people who want to be slightly better each day.
It's interesting you brought that up. My one of my mentors, Alan Weiss, talks about the 1% improvement, that if you improve by 1% a day in 70 days, you'll be twice as good. And so just by that compound interest. So listen, I've got to switch subjects because I have to ask this question. We've been asking each of our guests, and I think at the end of the 12 months we'll compile all of these and see what people said. So I know, Brea, that you're passionate about what you do, but let's just say that you get a chance to start a new business and it's based on a hobby. What would that hobby be? What would the business be, and what was the hobby?
Hobbies. I have 3 kids under 6. Hobbies. I mean, I guess maybe it would be drink. Like, is it like it'd be like a wine drinking club, or?
Well, maybe you could start a wine. Maybe you could open a winery and have the kids crushing the grapes like Lucille Ball in I Love Lucy. Maybe it's something like that.
I love it. I live in Woodinville, so this would be really on brand for us. Yeah, I'm in my she shed in the forest in Woodinville right now. By the way, that's like where I'm sitting. So I am only just a stone's throw away from like a bunch of wineries. So
well, I think we just came to the conclusion that your winery would be perfect.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be Courage brand wine, sponsored by Lions and Tigers. It'd be great.
All right.
You mentioned a a book just a minute ago, Atomic Habits. Do you
Mhm.
have another book that you might recommend to the group?
Yes, Michelle, we were just talking about this. I have been gobbling up this book lately. It is called Tending. It's by Amy Henderson. And I've been a fangirl of Amy's for a couple of years when I heard her on one of my favorite podcasts called Startup Parent. And Sarah was interviewing Amy all about how you unlock workplaces thanks to parents. And Amy has done all of this research about how parenting changes your mind and how it actually is such a developmental time. And it was like this huge aha moment because I was like, of course, I had all of these business ideas right as I became a mother. Like that, it made so much sense. So Amy's research is really validating my experience. So I've really been enjoying her work.
So
And you said you're doing a program with her coming up. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes, yeah. We have an event next Tuesday. Happy to share it with the audience here too. It's open to the public, but I'm interviewing Amy. I was just a fangirl and I just reached out and I was like, hey, you're a genius. Can I talk with you about this? And she said yes. So a colleague of mine, Heather Doran from Microsoft, myself and Amy are coming together for a fireside chat on September 28th at noon. And your audience is welcome to join. We're going to interview Amy on all things parenting at work.
So if you would send that to me, I'll make sure that we put it on our Facebook page. How about that?
Great. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
So, I was thinking about all you've talked about today and your journey and all of that. I guess this is a good plead the fifth. How have you changed in the time since you opened the doors to Lions and Tigers? How are you different than you were back then? Because we all grow and develop and change, but how are you different now?
I think this has been an incredibly humbling experience, Dan. As your business grows, so we're approaching 100 folks at Lions and Tigers. So the community has grown. I've been through businesses that have gone through these rises in the past, but this role, this seat, I've always been in a number 2 position. And in this position, I feel an incredible amount of responsibility for caretaking for this community too. So not only have I brought 3 children into the world while on an entrepreneurial journey, but I also have this other baby of Lions and Tigers. And I deeply care about it. I think about it when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed at night, just like many of your audience probably does. And the experience has been really humbling. And then to see a business through COVID and to see growth through COVID while we watched some of our peers shutter, that was also really, you sort of just look around and think like, why me? Like, why is this going well for us and not for others? And can we share what we've learned with others? Like, so I think I've gone through a space of going from sort of servant leadership to like grateful leadership to now what I think of as sort of inclusive leadership. That there's just been this like personal journey I've gone on, and this has all been pretty rapid. This is within 3 years. So I guess I'm just a lot more aware of identity as this thing has grown and my responsibility in the role that I have. I never really considered what it was I was called to do until this business showed up for me.
That is a great place for us to wrap up today. Brea, thanks so much for sharing your why, your insights, the story behind your business, a bit about your family. It's just been really insightful, I think. And thank you for being a guest here with us and sharing your afternoon. If folks want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
My favorite platform is LinkedIn. So you can find me at just Brea Starmer on LinkedIn. And then Lions and Tigers, of course, has a bunch of social properties that have some pretty amazing content. So if you're interested, Instagram and LinkedIn are great spots to find Lions and Tigers.
Great. So for our audience, make sure you check out all the replays of our show at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle and wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, Stitcher. And please follow us on the show's social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Brea, thanks so much for being here today. Michelle, as always, great to see you. And guess what? I'm going to see you again next week. So for everybody watching, we do this every Wednesday, but on the 5th Wednesdays of the month, which September is, we come together and do an all host get together. So we'll not only have Michelle, but we'll have James Alberson, Phil Simchich, and Linda Popke, and we'll be waxing poetic about a business topic or two, and we hope that you will join us. So please like us on Facebook so you can come watch the live stream. And of course, as Michelle mentioned, go to any of your favorite platforms and like us, rate us, give us 5 stars, all of that fun stuff. So we're done for today, but listen, in the meantime, please be safe, be well, and be prosperous, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp